Good morning. Welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation and all are welcome. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our musical call to worship, Wake Now My Senses, hymn number 198 in our gray hymnal. The words will appear on the screen. 298. So sorry, 298. Thank you for fixing it.
We're singing the first 4 verses.
My name is Genevieve Emmett, and I use she, her pronouns. I identify as neurodivergent, demisexual white woman in my 40s with long curly hair, wearing a blue button-up shirt and a soft, fuzzy cardigan with a blue and black pattern. While my husband Nathan works nights and has challenges attending morning services, we together chose KUUF as our spiritual community back in February 2005 to raise our family in. This welcoming community that embraces neurodivergency and LGBTQIA+ is so critical to us as we navigate these divisive times. Our guest speaker this morning is Joseph Bednarik. Joseph is a retired Pulitzer Prize-winning poetry publisher from Port Townsend. That's a lot of peas.
I didn't win the Pulitzer.
That's a lot of peas. He says he didn't win the Pulitzer, just to clarify. But he found the one that did. That is true. Let's see here. He speaks here at KUUF almost once a month. He is married and a father of grown twins, and we are so pleased that he is with us here today. If you are visiting this morning, please participate as you feel comfortable. If you are here in person, fidget toys and a rocking chair are available for wiggles and sensory needs. We have assisted listening systems available. If you need one, please see one of our ushers. Starting next Sunday, we ask that you pick up a hymnal on your way into the sanctuary should you want to use one. We just know most people are using the screens at this point, so they are still available though. Many members of the congregation also attend online. If you are visiting online today, you are welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. More announcements about Kitsap UU Fellowship activities are available in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. You can sign up on the website or in the foyer. Let us now take a moment to silence any electronic devices that you don't need to monitor for the next hour. And please join me in taking a few centering breaths. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Seas as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Our opening words this morning are by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Thank you. Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. We welcome Jack Peterson to come up and light our chalice. Join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it as I read our chalice lighting words. We light our chalice this morning with a short proverb from Finland. Even a small star shines in the darkness. Please join me in the spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. The lyrics of our next hymn, To See the World, use lines from a poem by William Blake. The Norwegian folk music was arranged by Edvard Grieg, a Norwegian Unitarian. Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn 398, To See the World, in the gray hymnal.
You might need to adjust the mic just a little bit. They've got you turned up all the way, but people are still having a hard time hearing you.
Thank you.
To see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, and infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. To see
Next, I'll invite Melinda forward for our time for all ages.
Good morning, everyone. I just have to say that the unison affirmation this morning sounded awesome. Like as in awe, right? Like it felt and sounded different this morning. Just sitting here and hearing it here was amazing. I don't know how many of the rest of you started school this week, but some of you might not know, I teach high school full time. And man, 154 students this week, I am exhausted. But it's exciting. It's exciting teaching about democratic ideals. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. They're in it. So, but this morning here at the congregation, we are starting our new church year. Starts in September every year. And we follow Soul Matters themes. So the theme this month is building belonging, creating a place of belonging. And what a time to create that belonging for everyone to find a space, a safe space that they can call their faith home. Today's story lifts up two inspiring Unitarian Universalist ancestors, Lucille Shuck Longview and Carolyn McDade. It's the history of how and why the ritual of the water communion came to be. It reminds us that our belonging is a gift of those who came before us and courageously stood up for wider circles. We will be having a water communion next week, so this story will help you understand how that came to be. A long time ago in the 1970s, there was a kind and curious woman named Lucille Shuck Longview. She was a Unitarian Universalist and loved her UU church in Lexington, Massachusetts. In 1975, Lucille got to travel to Mexico City as a UU delegate to be part of the United Nations Women's Year Assembly. This was a huge meeting where people talked about women's rights and how to make the world more fair. A side note, I just noticed that our movie this month is about Ms. Magazine. Is that right? I read that in the candle. Okay, Dear Ms. Anyway, side note. When she came home, Lucille had learned something important. Even in churches, even in her own beloved Unitarian Universalist faith, women's voices weren't always listened to. And that wasn't fair. When she came home, Lucille had learned something important. Even in churches, nope, I just read that. So Lucille spoke up. Like I said, I'm tired, right? So Lucille spoke up. She asked other Unitarian Universalists, what if we looked closely at our faith and made sure it truly respected women too? Lots of people agreed. They worked together to create something called the Women and Religion Resolution. It said, let's take a deep look at the words and ideas we use in church and make sure everyone is included, especially women and girls. The resolution was passed by the 1977 General Assembly, and for the next few years, people worked to change our faith tradition's language to be more inclusive of women and to lift up the address and the care of Mother Earth as a religious priority. In 1980, as part of this work, Lucille and her friend, Carolyn McDade, planned a very special gathering just for women, UU women. They called it Coming Home Like Rivers to the Sea. At that gathering, the women held a beautiful worship service that spoke to our connectedness to one another, to the totality of life, and to our place on this planet. They included a new inclusive symbol of women's spirituality, water. And in doing so, they made a brand new ritual, the water communion. Each woman brought a little bit of water from somewhere special, maybe from a river near her home, or a place she had traveled, or even her kitchen sink. One by one, the women stood in a circle and poured their water into a big bowl. As they poured, they shared the stories of where their water came from and why it mattered to them. The women said that water was a powerful symbol. It could come from many different places, just like they did. But when they poured their water together, it became one. just like them. Many voices, but one strong community. Some of the women poured their perfume bottles out. Do people still carry perfume bottles? Poured their perfume bottles out to take a little bit of that water home because they wanted to keep that feeling and strength and togetherness close to them. The first water communion helped inspire big changes in the UU faith, like updating our UU principles to use more welcoming language and to remind us to care for the earth. And today, UU congregations all over the world celebrate water communion as a way to feel connected to each other, to our faith, and to the earth. So next week, as we get ready to hold our water ceremony, may we not only remember Lucille and Carolyn, but all of those who helped us find belonging by pushing our UU faith to be more fair, more loving, and more welcoming for everyone. I believe there's going to be an announcement in the candle about that. Read your candles, everyone.
And the answer is yes. Yes, the answer is yes. Okay. Let's see here. Let me find my spot. There we go. As a religious community together, we can do the work of many. By sharing in the sacred act of giving, we transform gratitude into generosity towards our mission. One way that our mission inspires us to act on our shared UU values is to share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. Our charitable giving recipient for the month of September is Kitsap Homes of Compassion. Established in 2017, Kitsap Homes of Compassion has developed a unique, innovative approach to eliminating homelessness. In Kitsap County, Washington, Kitsap Homes of Compassion leases existing homes and creates affordable shared housing. KHOC currently operates 23 homes under the permanent supportive housing model and 2 transitional recovery homes. Their goal is to create a deeply affordable, long-term supportive housing for vulnerable people experiencing homelessness, including people with disabilities and/or mental health issues, young adults, mothers with young children, seniors, and veterans. If you would like your offering to go to this month's charitable giving recipient, Kitsap Homes of Compassion, please use the envelope inside your order of service. If you need an envelope, please raise your hand and the ushers will bring you one. If you would like your offering to go to KUUF, please put it directly in the basket. Instructions on other ways to make your gift, including a QR code, will be on the screen. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our beloved community with a gift of music from our music coordinator, Brian Kenny, and vocalist, Tiffany Drake, The Oneness of Everything by Jim Scott.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind. There find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings in the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth, ever giving. And now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living. For the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart, to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing. In the oneness of everything.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our children up to their classes. The words, "May you go with joy," will appear on the screens. Now is the time for our joys and sorrows. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows lessened. We had a lot of last-minute ones, so I want to give everyone a chance to be recognized, but I apologize if I butcher them. So, Jess Vander Galen has a sorrow that her soul sister and one of her life's greatest loves is returning to Gaza on the 14th for her second mission as a paramedic. She expects to serve there for 5.5 weeks. Her joy is to know and love her in the first place. Marvrik Boliak has a joy that Cece is starting kindergarten on Monday, and we are so proud of her. Rowan has a joy that Rowan was able to spend time last weekend with friends visiting from the East Coast. There we go. See, I told you. I apologize. Celebrating almost 20 years of friendship and travel. Wonderful folks, and grateful to have them in Rowan's life. Bonner's joy is that after a long discussion with their doctor on both of their efficacies, they received both flu and COVID boosters on Friday. With minimal soreness in both arms. Yippee! Suzanne Dunn has a joy that we have a very big harvest from Nancy Joe's garden for our farmers market. So many tomatoes. I'll have to check that one out. Terry Looney has 2 joys. Her husband, Bill, does not have to have a 4th back surgery. Yay. And their daughter, Erin, has joined us today. Yay. And our last joy is anonymous. For Celine Patterson, for all the hours she spends helping Tanisha in the administration of our fellowship, and for the years she spent leading the Chalice Circle facilitators. We are all very grateful. And we light one last candle for those joys and sorrows that are still too tender to share. Please join me in a moment of prayer or intention. Spirit of life and love, our hearts are overflowing with lamentation and longing. In this circle of care and compassion, we hold those who have shared their joys with us, and for each shared joy is a form of nourishment for all of us. In this shared circle of care and compassion, we faithfully witness those that have shared their sorrows with us. For each shared sorrow touches our hearts, and we accept the call to lighten the burden of our friend. Please remain seated as we sing hymn 123, Spirit of Life, in our gray hymnal. The words will appear on the screen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Bednarik. I am a man with glasses, short hair, a white beard, and I'm wearing a gray coat. My pronouns are he, him. And I also just want to say what a vitamin pill we had this morning by standing together in community and singing a William Blake song reminding us about time, and also to be in the presence of a high school history teacher teaching democratic values and ideals, and also what a profound joy it is to be with you here this morning in a sacred place, actually practicing those ideals. This morning's reading is translated by Robert Bly, by an Indian poet and mystic named Kabir. And the poem is called, "Are You Looking for Me?" Are you looking for me? I am in the next seat. Your shoulder is against mine. You will not find me in stupas, nor in Indian shrine rooms, nor in the synagogue, nor in cathedrals, not in masses, not kirtans, not in legs twisting around the neck, nor in eating nothing but vegetables. When you look for me, you will find me instantly. You will find me in the tiniest house of time. Kabir says, "Student, tell me, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath." Let's please join together in a moment of silent meditation.
Stay by me now, that I may feel the shadow of your wing, the shadow of your wing, the shadow of your wing on mine. Lay down your load, that I may feel the freedom of your wings, the freedom of your wings, the freedom of your wings on mine. Lay wide your dreams, that I may know the boundary of your love, the boundary of your love, the boundary of your love on mine. Lay down your guard, that I may know the sorrow that you hold, the sorrow that you hold, the sorrow that you hold on mine. Stay by me now, that I may know the joy that lives lifts your soul, the joy that lifts your soul, the joy that lifts your soul on mine. Walk by me now, that I may know the measure of your step, the measure of your step, the measure of your step on mine.
It's always a pleasure to be in the presence of live music, so thank you. At some point in that gloomy time, after the 2024 election and before the inauguration, when I was looking for some solace and nourishment amidst my doom scrolling, and also making a 4-year countdown calendar, a friend sent me a book that they claimed catalyzed and transformed their spiritual life. My friend wrote in a message, quote, "One of my favorite books of all time was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, about living in the now moment. Shortly after it was published in the late 1990s, this is my friend talking, I read it, and then I reread it. And then I read it a third time for the purpose of making notes on specific practices to apply to my daily life." Now, my friend went on to describe a companion volume published a few years later entitled Practicing the Power of Now. And this was the book that my friend actually sent me. And while I genuinely enjoy receiving books as gifts, one aspect I actually don't enjoy very much is that obligatory follow-up message, as in, "Hey, how'd you like that book I sent you?" Because it sometimes takes me weeks, months, possibly years to actually get to the book. So I've developed some pretty genuinely vaguey positive responses. Like, I haven't got to that one yet, but it's circling the airport, you know? Or I read into it a little bit, and what I have read, absolutely love. Or the best one, wow, that cover art is amazing. Now, I hate to admit that rather than joyfully sitting in that cone of white light, eager for the wisdom that so profoundly informed my friend's spiritual life, that I let the book wait off to the side, off to the side, off to the side, until one drizzly day in late winter, I dutifully trudged my way to the book and I opened it. And I am happy to say that the book did not hold a grudge, that I had been willfully ignoring it. In fact, the book did what all good books do to willing readers. The words welcomed me in. The ideas and the images drew me in, and then drew me in deeper. And I spent many pleasant hours reading slowly, ruminating, underlining, and starring passages in bright blue ink. Now, as a reader, and as a thinker, and as an emotional creature, it is always intriguing and tender to be gifted a book that has played an important role in somebody else's life, especially somebody's spiritual practice and spiritual life. That exchange, it is rooted in deep trust, and it is a deep form of sharing. And thus, let us all approach this morning's message with open hearts, open minds, and a generosity of spirit that calls us to be attentive to the now within which we are all breathing together in this sanctuary. And thinking about the now, that capital N, now, my very first thought homed in on a poem. And thus, I'm going to join my friend in a moment of sharing some fairly important text to me. It's important to me and to my spiritual life. It's going to be a brief poem by one of my greatest teachers, a writer named Jim Harrison. And to provide a little bit of biographical context, Jim was a great lover of life and also a very deep student of Zen, though he claimed in various interviews that he was a very poor student of Zen. And let's allow the poet his critical self-judgment, though to my eyes and my ears, and to my brain and to my heart, his poetry, which is so expressive of time and awareness of our human drive for transcendence, all those suggests otherwise. I actually think he was a profound student and practitioner of Zen. And what I believe is that Jim's practice of Zen was in service to deepening and enlivening his consciousness. Now, one of Jim's go-to wisdom statements, it appears numerous times throughout his writings and in interviews, and he said it aloud to me several times, from D.H. Lawrence, who said, quote, the only true aristocracy is that of consciousness. Now, as conscious human beings, we all are gifted by the miracle of our birth, membership into this aristocracy. And we are also presented with the responsibility and the power of making decisions, moment to moment to moment decisions on how to be with our consciousness. That's why this morning's singing of the Blake was so powerful the first time, powerful the second time, powerful the third time. We were doing that together. And now we have our choices, what to do with our consciousness. We can live with it. We can ignore it. We can celebrate it. We can fritter it away. We can leverage it. We can deepen it. We can waste it. We can cultivate it. We can polish it. We can piss on it. We can abuse it. We can glorify it. We can pretend it doesn't exist. We can drink it away. We can live for it, etc., etc., etc. And now let's not gloss over that word that's probably bugging you a little bit. Aristocracy. That word can be so unsettling to American ears, to our sense of fairness, to our sense of equality, meritocracy, egalitarianism. Aristocracy suggests that there are levels of consciousness, qualitative differences of consciousness, from unconscious to enlightened, or more colorfully, gradations and graduations from Beavis and Butthead to the Buddha. Enlightened. For those of you who don't get that, just go home, look up Beavis and Butthead. Any video of them will get you there. It is reasonable to say that spiritual growth moves from unconscious to enlightened. And as Eckhart Tolle begins chapter 4 called Dissolving Unconsciousness, quote, it is essential to bring more consciousness into your life in ordinary situations, when everything is going relatively smoothly. In this way, you grow in presence power. Or as Zen Master Phaon said, quote, Zen teachers need to first distinguish false and true. Then they must clearly understand the time. And these notions of presence power and time leads us directly to the Jim Harrison poem, which was composed when Jim was making a significant life transition And he invested a few months walking these dry riverbeds and hiking up canyons in Arizona, thinking about and being inspired by the words and life of this eccentric 15th century Japanese Buddhist monk named Ikkyu, whose nickname was Crazy Cloud. Now, Jim wrote a series of 57 poems, one for each year of his life at that point, and the series was called After Ikkyu. And here is poem number 12. Not here and now, but now and here. If you don't know the difference is a matter of life and death, get down naked on bare knees in the snow and study the ticking of your watch. Now, presented with a book entitled Practicing the Power of Now, you can see why this poem rose to my consciousness. Now consider that first line. Not here and now, but now and here. Those two inescapable existential realities for every embodied human being with a beating heart. Time and place. And consider the radical demand of the poet to call your ego to heel. Shed your protective clothing, kneel vulnerable in the snow, and study the intricate and mechanical human-made time-marking machine held snug around your wrist, precisely where your pulse can be felt. Now, as you shiver, both physically and metaphysically, you are learning the life and death difference between here and now and here. Repeat. You are learning the life and death difference between here and now and here. Repeat. Zen teachers need first to distinguish false and true. Then they must clearly understand the time. Repeat. The only true aristocracy is that of consciousness. Repeat. It is essential to bring more consciousness into your life in ordinary situations. Now, alive in these bodies, living most of our lives, most often, within perfectly ordinary situations, distinguishing true and false, our most blessed muscle beats our numbered days of personal time within seemingly infinite and mind-boggling cosmic time. Psst. Now, alive in these bodies, we are always somewhere in space, occupying a place called here. As Mark Strand begins his famous poem called Keeping Things Whole, in a field, I am the absence of field. This is always the case. Wherever I am what is missing. And in his glorious book called The Sabbath, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who began our service with opening words, glorious opening words, he meditates deeply on space and time and reminds us on page 1, quote, time is the heart of existence. There is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, not to own, but to give, not to control, but to share, not to subdue, but to be in accord. Now, those who practice Judaism call this realm of time Sabbath. Now, the religious practice of Sabbath, I think it's just pure genius in that it calls for conscious and intentional savoring of time, of being present to your life, to the life that you're actually living, to the life of your family, to the life of your community, and the life of your loves, and to praise the divine. And then this statement from Heschel strikes to our existential core. Quote, nothing is more useful than power, nothing more frightful. And so keep that word power in mind, because that's the key word in Tolle's title, practicing the power of now. Now the call being that you have the power. You can realize the power. You can practice the power. And for that phrase, nothing more frightful, what is it? What is it to live a life when the power that you have been gifted remains unused, remains unrealized? Now, on page 2 of the Sabbath, the rabbi writes, quote, "The higher goal of spiritual living is not to amass a wealth of information, but to face sacred moments." We are in, right now, a sacred moment. In this world that is so filled with input and reaction, input and reaction, input and reaction, we here have chosen to gather together to home our human attention now and here. Now, reframed as an entirely positive statement from Heschel, the higher goal of spiritual living is to face sacred moments. And the phrase higher goal certainly harmonizes with the notion of aristocracy. Now, one aspect of Eckhart Tolle's book that I loved was his use of the phrase incessant mental noise, which I've come to believe in our era of smartphones and 24/7 news cycles and artificial intelligence and fractured politics and this and that and the other and this and that and the other and this, that, the other. That's our default setting, if we let it. Non-stop input and reaction, input, reaction, input, reaction, ceaseless input, reaction, input, reaction, input, reaction, relentless input, reaction. Input, reaction. I heard you. And a phrase that I picked up from watching Eckhart Tolle's DVD entitled Meditation, Practicing Presence in Every Moment of Your Life was extremely noisy mind. I have a sense that we all kind of dip a toe in extremely noisy mind every once in a while. And if you have an extremely noisy mind, a place to start, Tolle suggests, is meditating. A place to begin realizing one's power is by taking just one conscious breath and counting that breath. It is the most ordinary of activities. It's so fundamental to keeping our physical bodies alive. And when consciously performed, an ordinary activity that can actually help bring more consciousness into your life. This is what's meant by that first word in the title of Tolle's book, practicing. 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 I paused the DVD and I practiced what Tolle suggested. I closed my eyes, I straightened my spine, and I slowly inhaled through my nostrils, trying to be conscious and aware of my senses, especially the sensation of air passing into my body, a single conscious breath. 1. I slowly exhaled. 1. The first conscious breath led to the next. I counted. 1. Again, exhaled attentively within the moment, within the now. 1. Again, being extremely aware of the air moving into and through my nose, into my lungs to nourish my body. 1. Oxygen from the trees, the breeze off the sea, breath, now and here. 1. I slowly opened my eyes, attentively scanned my surroundings, and truth be told, I laughed out loud when my vision focused on my tattered to-do list, complete with the phrase, "Watch meditation DVD," as one of my not yet crossed off to-dos. When I restarted, the DVD talked about the moments from daily life to call yourself into the now. For example, when you get into your car, or you get into your cow, I don't care. If you have one of those cows, you're welcome to get into it. Pause a moment to breathe, to become acutely aware of your surroundings, of your senses, to be present. Or as he described in a different scenario in his book, give up waiting as a state of mind. I had to do that this morning while waiting for the bridge to open in order to get here. Give up waiting as a state of mind. When you catch yourself slipping into waiting, snap out of it. Come into the present moment, just be, and enjoy being. If you are present, there is never any need for you to wait for anything. So the next time somebody says, "Oh, sorry to have kept you waiting," you can reply, "Oh, that's all right. I wasn't waiting. I was just standing here enjoying myself. Enjoy in myself." Close quote. Now that is a classic example of a mindfulness reframe, confronting an ordinary worldly annoyance, waiting, and transforming that annoyance into a portal into the now, into presence, into joy, a savoring, if you will. As Jim Harrison writes in another poem, "At my age, even in airports, why would you wish time to move faster?" Now this reframe is very much like Thich Nhat Hanh's reminder about hearing bells. Thich Nhat Hanh was a Buddhist monk who wrote many, many books, including Peace is Every Step, The Path of Mindfulness in Everyday Life. And you can change out everyday for ordinary, if you will. Where he writes, quote, "In my tradition, Buddhism, in my tradition, we use the temple bells to remind us to come back to the present moment. Every time we hear a bell, we stop talking, stop our thinking, and return to ourselves, breathing in and out and smiling. Whatever we are doing, we pause for a moment and just enjoy our breathing. Sometimes we also recite this verse, listen, listen. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true self." When we hear the bell, we can pause and enjoy our breathing, get in touch with the wonders of life that are all around us. The flowers, the children, the beautiful sounds. Every time we get back in touch with ourselves, the conditions become favorable for us to encounter life in the present moment. Close quote. Thich Nhat Hanh's present moment equals Eckhart Tolle's now, equals Rabbi Heschel's Sabbath, equals Jim Harrison's Now and Here, equals D.H. Lawrence's Aristocracy of Consciousness. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh encouraged mindfulness practitioners to move that bell meditation outside the temple walls, and into the secular world. So when you hear a bell, a telephone, or a service bell ring, allow that sound to be an invitation from the universe to practice mindfulness, to breathe a conscious breath, and to get in touch with the wonders of life. Now, as my mind does, I started thinking about bells and realized that I grew up in a house with a grandmother clock. So my family home resonated with systematic bell ringing every 15 minutes around the proverbial and literal clock. At 1/4 the hour, bong, 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 bong. 1/2 the hour, bong, 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 bong. 1/4 the hour, bong, 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 bong. Bong, 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 bong. And at the top of the hour, you can join me if you know it. Bong, 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 bong. Bong, 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 bong. Bong. Okay, that was 1 o'clock. Top of the hour is followed by the number that is the hour. So let's pretend it's 4 in the morning, sleepless night, and you hear this in the dark. Join me if you know it. Bong, 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 bong. Bong, 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 bong. Bong, 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 bong. Lying awake in that pre-dawn darkness, 4 in the morning, counting those bongs, desperately wanting to sleep, I would be tempted to forego my place in the aristocracy of consciousness for a few hours of unconscious shut-eye, please. And lying there in bed, unable to sleep, I could not help myself. The math problem was simply too seductive. Okay, 25 bongs for that first hour of the day, 26 the second hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Click on the lights. Leap year. 1 year in my family's home, our grandmother clock bonged, I'm going to be generous here, over half a million times. Calling us all into, I'm thinking it's 250,000, 500,000, sorry. Calling us into the present moment, hearkening us into the now. Now this perhaps explains why there are no grandmother clocks in Buddhist cemeteries, or monasteries, because nothing would ever get done except enlightenment. And because the family clock had been standing upright in our foyer for more than half a century, safe to estimate, the clock has dutifully bonged over 10 million times. Half a century of now, 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 now. Listen, listen. This wonderful sound is calling me back to my true self. Now, I can say that almost definitively, none of those 10 million bongs called anyone in my family into the now, into the present moment, or into the aristocracy of consciousness. What I can say is that those millions of bongs, mechanically marking time for over half a century by leveraging weight and gravity, gears and pendulum, serve as a cautionary tale for you to begin hearing the world's bells, for you to begin hearing the poets calling you to your knees to study your watch, for you to begin experiencing the higher goal of spiritual living by facing sacred moments, like this sacred moment in this ordinary and sacred place. This now, our now. Bong. Amen. You guys do a really good grandmother clock. Just saying. Our closing hymn this morning is number 163 in the gray hymnal, The Earth Forever Turning. Please rise in spirit, in body or spirit, as you are so moved.
For the skies, for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, for the skyland majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For for the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, we are joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue, green hills of earth.
Wonderful. Our closing words this morning, a beautiful little poem by Antonio Machado. Beyond living and dreaming, what matters most is waking up. And we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These let us carry in our hearts until we are together again. And before we leave each other, 3 quick announcements. One, the grief group will be meeting after the service today in the Elmore room. At 11:45, the second session of the Pro-Trans workshop will be held in the sanctuary today. Please bring in your coffee and snacks and join us. And third, that leads into coffee hour. After the service, please join us outside for coffee, tea, and treats. You can meet in the foyer. You can meet out on the deck. Thank you very much for coming this morning, for being in the now.